Finn. I want to do a video today to talk about drug and alcohol use in the LGBT community. For people that watch my videos, you'll know that as well as being transgender, I'm also an addict in recovery. One day at a time, with the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been sober for 5 years this coming August. Next month. Amazing. Never thought that would ever happen, and I have to say that I love AA, and one day at a time it has changed my life beyond all recognition. It is the service I would recommend to everybody. It's not for everyone, we all have different paths, but of course I'm very passionate about AA, so I will always recommend AA. I am very aware that use of drug and alcohol is very big in our lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender community. We use far more drugs and alcohol than the straight population do, for a number of reasons. I think it's just part of the scene that we're in, and let's face it, it's not easy coming out as lesbian, gay or bisexual, and it's not easy coming out as transgender, and alcohol can sometimes be how we cope. Looking back on hindsight, I think that's probably my main reason why I was such an addict. You know, I discovered it was the off switch. I could use drugs and alcohol and switch off from all the confusion I felt, you know. Getting sober has meant that I've actually been able to get to the bottom of what was going on and make some amazing changes in my life. So, as well as being passionate about support, education around transgender issues, I am also very passionate about recovery. And I'm very aware that there are not a lot of services out there. There is, in London, some specific AA groups for LGBT people, and there is also London Friend, who run support groups specifically for LGBT people. But apart from that, there is zilch. And there's also some issues in mainstream recovery services where LGBT people do not feel welcome and they do not feel supported or understood. So I want to make a video talking about that really, and just to try and ask for some feedback from people who have addiction issues and who are on the LGBT spectrum. If I could get some feedback about the experiences you've had and the recovery services you've used and how that's been for you, and your thoughts on what could be done to improve already existing services, and whether you feel specific LGBT services would be beneficial, and if so, why, and what you'd like to see from them. I've done a bit of research myself, and obviously I've got my own kind of thoughts on it. I think having specific groups is really useful because relating to people is part of recovery. You know, when you relate, you get the feeling that people understand, and when they give advice, you think they really know what they're talking about because they've been through it. Now, there are some instances where specific groups can give more of that relation. I mean, there are women-specific groups and men-specific groups and young people-specific groups, and it makes sense to me that you would have LGBT-specific groups because there are certain issues that we want to be able to talk about that you might not be able to talk about in a mainstream group. Discrimination does exist. I've been lucky, I have, but I think it's still an issue. Whether it's real or perceived, it's still an issue and a big fear for people accessing groups, especially if people aren't out yet, and not being out is part of their use of alcohol. I mean, there are a lot of people that can't cope with being lesbian, gay or bisexual or transgender, and so are drinking or using to cope with it. So then to kind of access the support service where they're not even out in the real world, how they're then going to talk about it in a group that doesn't specifically and explicitly welcome LGBT people. Also, a lot of reasons for addiction in the first place is due to feeling so different and so isolated and such a minority. And so then if you're in a mainstream service that is predominantly full of straight, cis people, you're going to feel like a minority yet again and have that kind of reinforced, which is just going to strengthen the issues of addiction. Also, in terms of recovery being a transgender person, the dysphoria we feel around being transgender is horrible. On a daily basis, being misgendered, not being seen for who you are is really painful. If you then have to go to a recovery service that constantly misgenders you because you don't yet fully maybe you're not on hormones, you don't look the gender you're identifying as yet, then on top of your recovery pain that you're going through, you're also being misgendered. And that's just a trigger to go and use again, so this is a big issue as well. I've been lucky in AA. I came out in AA as transgender, and I've been very accepted and supported, and I feel very lucky and very blessed. But I do realise that it's not the case for everyone, and I'm not always completely comfortable discussing issues. I mean, if I go back to before I even came out, when I entered the rooms, I was identifying as a gay woman. And as such, getting a sponsor was quite complicated, because in AA the idea is you go for a sponsor of the same gender as you to avoid the attraction issue. Well, that doesn't really work if you're lesbian, gay or bisexual, does it? So yeah, that's a big complication right there. I did have a female sponsor and it worked, and it was fine. But yeah, what a barrier to recovery that was, and it did actually kind of stall my process of getting a sponsor. And even coming out of trans, it's been very hard, because in the beginning, before hormones, when I was still kind of androgynous looking, it was quite hard. I wanted a male sponsor, but I kind of was worried some people would be quite awkward about sponsoring me and not knowing enough about my issues. It made it more awkward than it needs to be, and this is why I think specific services would really be beneficial, not as a replacement, but as running alongside, so maybe in early days, or when there's certain issues you want addressing and to talk about in a safe environment, accepting environment, then an LGBT service would be fantastic. I mean, I would still access mainstream AA, then my friends in there, they support me, it's fine, but there are some times when I could do with a service that is completely tailored to my needs, especially regarding, upcoming operations and what have you. I find that very, very hard to discuss in AA, and even the changes I'm going through I was already socially awkward, but now I'm even more socially awkward because I'm transitioning and I'm trying to learn to live as a man, and then trying to explain that in a AA group, it's quite hard. And it'd be lovely to have a group that is LGBT focused for addiction issues. So at the moment I've been doing some volunteer work with a drug and alcohol charity called the Lifeline Project. A friend of mine, Dee Dee Wallace, runs this, and she's incredibly passionate about addressing some of these issues, about getting some specific services in place for LGBT people, and also working in educating already existing services on how they can be more inclusive and more understanding of LGBT issues around drug and alcohol use. What I've done off my own back at the moment on Facebook is I've created a group called the Rainbow Recovery Rooms, and this runs as kind of like a two-purpose group really. The main group, which I'll put a link to here, is kind of just like a face page where I'm going to put lots of information and advice around drug and alcohol use in the LGBT community. It's also a place to get in contact with other service providers and hopefully kind of start a dialogue on there. But it also serves as a link to a secret support group I'm started on Facebook. So if you have an issue with drug and alcohol and you identify as LGBT, please do come and say hi on that group, send me a private message there, and I can give you the link to the secret support group. If you're somebody that works with the LGBT community and you'd like more advice around how you can better work with LGBT people, then come and join the main group and get in touch with me there. This is something I'm just running off my own back at the moment. It's something I hope will evolve with time. Maybe mentoring, maybe some kind of face-to-face groups on there. It might be something that Dee Dee picks up alongside what she's doing, and we amalgamate it and do it together. I don't know. This is all kind of a work in progress at the moment, which is the purpose of this video really, to kind of connect with people, both people working with LGBT people and LGBT people going through recovery, to kind of come together and sort of talk about what is needed. I also want to take a moment to just promote something that's happening in Oxford at the moment. Dee Dee is creating some alcohol-free events. As I said, in the community, drug and alcohol use is rife, and in the scene there's very little else to do apart from drink. Oxford's quite good. We've got a few different groups running about now that aren't all centred around alcohol, which is good, but I think having some really kind of big party events that are alcohol free would be so positive, because it's not always about having to stop drinking. Sometimes people just need a break, some people just need to learn management, and other people do, like myself, need to be abstinent. So an alcohol free event is for everybody, whether they just want a night off drinking, they want an alternative event, or for people in recovery like myself who wanted to go and party without someone kind of spilling alcohol over you. So I've printed out a really awful copy which doesn't really do this justice, but this is the Midsummer's Night's Tea, which is happening on the 8th of August. There is a link to a group for it also on my, I'll flag it again, on my Rainbow Recovery Rooms page. A link to a Facebook group for the Midsummer's Tea Party. It is invite only at the moment, because obviously we've got a very limited space. So if you want to be added to the very exclusive guest list, please do get in touch. And hopefully there'll be more of those in the future. So yeah, I just wanted to really touch base with people and ask for some thoughts around these issues. How you feel. Do you feel the same as me? What can we do about it, basically? So yeah, please do get in touch with me on either of those groups or on my Facebook group, which I'll also put here. There's just going to be links everywhere on this video. I do apologise. And one final thing, tomorrow, Tuesday the 14th of July, I am on Oxford TV, which is really exciting and very nerve-wracking. I'm talking predominantly about my journey in coming out as a transgender man and how that's been. But I'm also going to talk a little bit on there about the issues I've talked about in this video. So if you'd like to watch that, that would be great. And I shall also put a link up to it when it's done. So yeah, that's it for now. Please do get in touch and let me know what you think. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.